One of the missions of Property Tribes is to build an ecosystem of legitimate and trusted products for landlords. And when I heard about Vesta, I was very excited, and I'm delighted to welcome Russell Gould, CEO of Vesta, to Property Tribes and also as a sponsor of the site. And Russell, as I said, when I heard about Vesta, my eyes literally lit up. It's going to be a very, very useful platform for landlords. Tell us exactly what Vesta is.
I'm glad your eyes lit up. We're very excited by it as well. Vesta is a marketplace for residential investment property. We are basically creating a platform to allow people with rented property to sell their properties and to buy properties, all for a fixed fee, so no more high commissions, and you earn income all the way through because the tenants stay in place.
Indeed, and from both the buyer and seller perspective, it gives so much certainty, because if you're buying, you can see the actual rental being achieved. You don't have to do comparables or guesswork, and if you're selling, you don't have to worry about the dreaded void.
Exactly. Vesta has been purpose built for the PRS market, so we will provide with each of our listings a full overview of the property, the yields, the HPIs for the last 5 years. We will also include all the usual things you'd expect on an online estate agency style platform, with the imagery, the descriptions, the square footage, etc. We undertake a home buyer's report on behalf of the potential buyer, so you can see that up front, and all the due diligence on the tenants as well, so you know exactly what you're getting when you go and look at this property.
And indeed, the other thing that particularly struck me about it is that you can either sell a single unit, or you can sell, or indeed buy, an entire portfolio. And again, this is one of the unique points about it, isn't it?
Exactly. The private rented sector includes people who sell single units or buy single units, people who sell or buy blocks, and people who sell or buy entire portfolios. And what we're doing with Vesta is we're catering for every one of those types of sellers or those types of buyers. So in fact, we can take a portfolio and we can break it down into its single unit listings, its blocks, its regions, or its entire portfolio, therefore marketing it to a wide range of potential buyers so you can maximize value.
Now, actually, I did want to just touch on that, because it's not just other landlord buyers that this marketplace is going to be for. There's some bigger fish out there, isn't there?
That's exactly correct. If you look at the institutional market investment into the PRS sector in the UK, it's only 2%, and that's because the sheer nature of the UK residential investment market is pretty much privately owned by landlords who have 1 to 3 properties. Yet in America and Germany and Denmark, it's about 20% versus that 2%. And what we already know is there are billions and billions of pounds, sitting in London waiting to invest into this PRS sector, and they're having to wait for build-to-rent schemes or new developments. And what Vesta is going to create is a platform to allow existing stock to be purchased using these funds.
Well, indeed, the government is actually encouraging institutional investors to come into the sector through build to rent. So for a private portfolio landlord to be able to expose their portfolio to sale to this calibre of buyer, as well as the rest of the marketplace, this is going to ensure that good prices are achieved.
Exactly. One of the things about a marketplace is it does create an even playing field, and it should bring out all the potential buyers so you maximize your value. So one of the key things that we do on the Vesta platform is you as a buyer can make offers, or we have a buy it now price, which is a price that's been set by the seller as the price that they would accept immediately if a buyer met that price, very similar to eBay's buy it now. And we do that for the single unit listings, the blocks and the portfolios, which ultimately will flush out the best buyers and get the best value for each property.
I have to say, Russell, as well, apart from the institutional side of things, the timing there, that government's actively encouraging institutional investors in, I think the timing of Vesta is very spot on. Clearly, we've got other issues affecting landlords. We know what they are because you're sponsoring our Section 24 category. But, timing-wise, I think there's a lot going on that's going to make Vesta very, very important.
Exactly. Section 24 will have an effect on landlords. We already know it is starting to have an effect, and a lot of landlords are not yet aware of it, but will become aware of it very, very soon. And what Vesta does is, because you can sell your property with the tenants in place, the great thing about that is, as a seller and as a landlord, you earn right up until the property is sold. So in this environment where your yield is being pressured by these changes, we enable you to sell your property, earn from it right up until it's sold, and we don't charge commissions, we charge a fixed fee.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing, we in terms of the property tribes audience, we've got landlords that are going to want to sell tenanted properties, but we've got landlords that are going to want to buy tenanted properties and possibly even ready-made portfolios. And we very often have landlords coming on that will say, I've just inherited 500,000, how do I get started? I see Vesta offering them a solution as well.
Yeah, exactly. The great thing about, if you're starting out as a landlord, you often need to read up about it, find out what to do. You need to make a decision on what property you're going to buy. Once you've bought it, you need to get a tenant in place. And there's a lot of risk associated to that, and there might be a long void time from when you first purchase it to having tenants in place, which could affect debt, if you have debt associated to it, from a cost perspective. And one of the great things about Vesta is, because each of our properties is effectively already made. It's like buying a property investment off the shelf. We have already undertaken the home buyers, so you know the quality of the property. We have undertaken due diligence on all the tenancy history, so you know exactly what you're getting. You know what the rent's going to be because it's in place already.
Yeah, no guesswork.
And all the work's been done for you. You know what the purchase price is going to be. And the day you buy that property and it completes, you effectively have a ready-made residential investment property working for you.
Well, I can just see that it's going to help landlords grow very quickly because of that. But also, if you do have a tranche of money when you're starting out, you might want to buy a ready-made portfolio. And as you say, because it's based on actual rents being achieved, to my mind, that's much lower risk. You're not guessing, you're not kind of working out yields based on sort of comparables from a letting agent. You've got the actual figures right there, and I think that can give a lot of peace of mind.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. So depending on how long the property has been rented that's listed on our platform, you can see the entire history. So you know how long it's been rented for, you know how many voids it's had, you'll understand how fast it takes to put a new tenant in place if there have been some voids. So it will significantly reduce the risk. And like you say, you know exactly what the yield is going to look like. You also, because of the home buyers report, you have an understanding of what might need to be repaired in the property up front, so there should be no surprises.
Yeah, well, having looked at the platform myself, one of the things I do love is the little guide to yield. It tells you exactly how the property is yielding, and I think that's very important, just looking through as a snapshot. But also it's also acting as an educational tool, perhaps for the less experienced landlord, and mitigating their risk again because of the tenant being in place and they know what they're getting.
Yes, we did a lot of research leading up to how we would present properties on the Vesta platform, and we interviewed a lot of landlords and buyers and sellers to understand what information they needed in order to make a decision.
Yeah.
And originally, when we first looked at building the platform, it was going to be just like a property listing, and we had to take a step back and say, you know what, that's not good enough for a potential landlord or an investor in property. You need to present it like it is a commodity, explain the yield, explain the HPI, explain the square foot and the return per square foot, and that's what we've tried to do, and we will continue to enhance that to make it easier for buyers to make decisions on which property is most appropriate for them.
Indeed. And just to close this out, Russell, it is early days for Vesta. I know you've got very big plans for it. There's a very impressive team behind the company. What would be your kind of ultimate goal for Vesta to become once it's really bedded in and you've added all the extra features?
That's a great question. I think we're very much focused on the here and now. So we've built a platform. We have the ability to sell and buy. We will be adding a managed service to that. We would like to provide some debt and some insurance and some legal services to landlords as part of that. Ultimately, for me, I would like Vesta to become the marketplace for PRS in the UK to start with, and then hopefully we'll roll that out into other regions, because we know this is a problem globally. There is not a residential investment property marketplace anywhere else.
Because it just seemed to me that it could support the landlord throughout their entire life cycle when they're in acquisition mode, if they're kind of balancing their portfolio, perhaps selling some underperforming assets, looking for better quality assets, right through to when they're ready to say goodbye to being a landlord. So it seems that you're going to be on that entire journey with landlords going forwards.
You talked about the landlord ecosystem and what you guys are doing, and I think from our perspective, that's exactly how we see it. We'd like to be there for the landlord from day one, the person who wants to become a landlord on their first property purchase, right through to them building their portfolio, downsizing or increasing in certain areas, and then ultimately selling their portfolio or selling parts of their portfolio at a later date. And we view Vesta as the marketplace to provide them all the tools they need in order to buy and sell those properties through the duration.
Fantastic. Well, it's so great to have you on board as a sponsor with Property Tribes. We're very much looking forward to working with you, and I know part of Vesta's remit and why you came on board with Property Tribes is to help educate landlords and help them understand about investment decisions and so on. So exciting times ahead, and we'll be learning more about Vesta as time goes on, but it's really great to have you as part of the Property Tribes community. And if you want to go and have a look at Vesta, you'll see how the properties are presented for sale, and if you're buying or selling, it's a definite option for you to consider. And if you've got any questions, Russell's going to be happy to answer them, aren't you?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be working with you guys, and we're very excited about Vesta and the platform and where we're going from a PRS perspective.